80-something. Yesterday. Sounds of
tomorrow, today.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the third ever episode of Season 1 of the Wrap Out, where we talk about old gigs, good and bad. And Oscar Wilde once said, experience is the name we give our mistakes. And I have a lot of experience, and we're happy to share with you this one, where in 2001, a scrappy band of young musicians decided to throw together a nostalgia retro 80s variety band. And I went and found a bunch of people on the ever so selective Craigslist, and I'm still talking to a couple of them, and here they are now. Got them waiting in the wings. I got McBane, just barely got his outfit on up top. That's Michael McBane up top there. And we got Mike Rosch, the legendary bass player, Latin percussionist extraordinaire, in our little bottom window. So, hi guys, welcome aboard once again.
This is thank you. Thank you for giving me the retro TV. Really, it means a lot.
Speaking of retro, Michael up top there was the guy. I mean, we talked about some of the girls coming dressed to the nines to things. This guy was on point from the get-go. He got it. You got that whole new romantic thing completely together, and kind of made.
Well, Sean, look, I literally put on the same. This is the same jacket that I wore for our shoots.
That is.
I remember that.
It is. Let's see if I can dig that up.
We're already jumping in with the. Yeah.
I want to make sure I find the right one, but anyway, that is the jacket, and we will take a look at it in just a second. That's incredible. I can't believe you still have that. Cheers.
I can't believe a lot of things about my life.
So, I have never been, a huge fan of cover bands, but they do serve a purpose, and they are about the only way to, generate any revenue with your instruments in this town. You certainly are not gonna. You're not gonna have just a music as your job if you're playing your own stuff, especially these days. But I thought it would be fun. I had just gotten a new set of Roland V drums, the all electronic, and in 2001 I wanted to do something with them. And I love 80s music. I love new wave. I'm a big sucker for that stuff, and so I thought it might be kind of fun.
You specifically said I have to figure out a way to pay for these drums.
I remember that.
That's right. They needed to earn their keep, and so we needed to figure out a way to justify that purchase. And it was a pretty good. It was at least a couple of grand, which 2001. Yeah, that was still a lot of dough. But I haven't really done the math as to whether that ever happened, as far as whether that particular project ever actually paid those drums off.
I can assure you you did not recoup.
not from 80-something you didn't.
No, probably not. There were a lot.
You went further into debt. You went further into debt as a result of 80-something, and you're probably still paying it off.
Yeah. But yeah, so I ran an ad on Craigslist. I don't know how many of you guys remember that, that ad. I wish I still had it. But and Craigslist is definitely.
I
Well,
remember
it
the
was.
ad.
Let me just, I much like you. I mean, I don't have a huge love for cover bands, but there was a little something about it where I could tell. There was a sense of humor about it, and then it was with kind of endearment to the time period, and because I sure wasn't. I mean, there was no way I was going to ever try out for any cover band. I mean, forget that. So
That's all I was trying to do back then. Which cover? I want to make money with my bass.
Right. Well, it's a normal. I mean, it's definitely a normal starting point for anything. I mean, growing up in Fort Worth, we had no role models there. I can't think of. I mean, the Toadies were about the only big alternative thing to come out of there, and that was still years off. When I was growing up there. So we only had other cover bands as our idols and role models. So, yeah. So I threw an ad up on Craigslist, which you're gonna get a lot of flakeazoids and tire kickers and wannabes when you go to when you set the bar so low. But there's also, we found some real gems too. At the same time, I feel like.
We had a pretty good mix of freakazoids and gems in the band, I think.
Right.
yeah, but as I I asked before when we had talked about it. See, at the time, I mean, you were kind of doing web design, and you kind of had a handle on that, and you literally made a tryout page.
Yeah, it was like an audition online.
Yeah,
right.
It definitely weeded out the majority of the freakazoids, I would say.
I mean, it was truly impressive, and that's why I still think about it.
Yeah. Well, it did. I was a script kiddie. I was trying to learn web development at the time, and I think that was a form of that was a CGI form, and there was some middleware, PHP maybe. And yes, you're right. It completely saved a ton of time, because what it did, it allowed people to upload a picture, an audio file, which doesn't seem like a big deal now, but it was kind of a hair puller to set up back then, and then be able to write a bio about themselves. And so we knew right away, whether what to keep and what to toss back, thanks to a lot of that.
But yeah, let me just expand on what as far as like, doesn't seem like a big deal now, but back then, I happened to be living with a guy who had just graduated with a computer science major. And I was like, hey, I have this cassette of me playing, but I need to audition for this band. Can you help me? So he figured out how to take a cassette recording of something I had played. And he helped me do my audition because you had set it up that way. And I mean, I didn't, 2001, I knew how to use a computer. I didn't know anything about what you were asking. And I had to go to my computer science roommate and be like, hey, help me audition for this band.
Well, it sure beats the hell out of, scheduling multiple in-person things and just being wildly disappointed over and over and over again. So we kind of thinned the herd down, and I wish I had I was trying to find that picture from that very first rehearsal we all did, but it was all three of us. It was a girl named Jada, and it was a guy named Luis, who was going to be a keyboardist, and then Rob, of course.
Right.
Rob was my original
Rob.
partner in crime. I'd been in many bands with him over the years, and so he was going to be kind of the singer and kind of program a lot of the MIDI stuff at the time. And so we did that first rehearsal, and it seemed like we were a good fit. And then the weeks started to roll by, and we had 4 hours of stuff to create. If we wanted to have a product to sell. That doesn't happen overnight. 4 hours is a long time. That's like 60 songs or so, to get down. And right out of the gate, we already said his name, but we won't say the last name. But right out of the gate, Luis was making excuses, showing up unprepared, spent a bunch of money on equipment, but wasn't bothering to utilize it. And he had a crush on you, Mike. And so you became his little confidant. and
That's right.
And he started a little whisper campaign.
And you know what? And I'm gonna just say, even 20 years later, I still my gaydar is the worst. I mean, y'all had to tell me that, and I'm like, really? I'm such a, and then you guys started to clue me in on all the clues in his house. It's like he's got all the wolves on the thing, and I'm like, what is that? A wolves? I don't think it's about wolves, and what?
Well,
But we digress.
Luis was a troubled soul. I think I just found an email from him. I used to call him the CNC Excuse Factory. Let's see. Sorry, do not expect too big of a performance from me this practice. I know most of the songs, but my attention is put on my car that is currently in an auto cocoon on my front lawn. I ran into some trouble and discovered a bolt that is sheared off in my block. I have car parts everywhere. And I'm just reading this, and I'm just hearing womp, 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 womp. I'm hearing Charlie Brown teacher noise. And this was not...
No, but like at the very time he's writing that, he's driving over and purchasing an entire PA.
Yeah, and an expensive keyboard. And
make up for it.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy...
a Triton, a $6,000 Triton or whatever it was.
Do you guys remember though? And I mean, I don't know how much of this cast we want to spend talking about that one guy, but do you remember too? He showed up to I don't know if he showed up to the first rehearsal still thinking it, but there was some confusion. He thought he was the bass player.
Right.
Do you remember that, Sean?
Right. Yes, I do remember, because that's what he was angling for, and I just told him that we already had that covered. So, but I just remember him saying something like, "Yeah, I thought I was going to be the bass player," and then he told me, "No, keys or whatever," and he's like, "I'm more of a bass player," and I was like, "I don't think you are." But well, my big problem with him is he was one of those people that poisons the well. Yeah, he would try to start alliances outside of the normal communication chains, and I went back through the emails, and there's a whole bunch of that. It's really hilarious. Oh my God! And I found the email where he lists all the things he spent money on. It was the last one when we kicked him out, and it goes on for days. I can't even begin to read this. It goes on forever.
Yeah.
It was so passive aggressive. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll have to send it. I'll have to post it somehow, because it's worth a read. It's really extraordinary.
Yeah, he definitely did. I mean, you use the word crush. You're not wrong that he was like looking to me, and I've always been the guy that can like attract the guys who whatever. My mother would tell you, you just have an affinity for befriending the odd man out, and but I don't even know why, but yeah, like he would come to my other gigs with my other bands I was playing with at the time, and he'd catch me on breaks, and he'd be like, where's your wife? And it was like, oh, she doesn't come to all of my gigs, and he'd be like, oh, and it's kind of like. Why are you asking so much about the wife? Oh, no reason,
No,
wow, I didn't know he. I didn't know he literally stalked you.
Stalked by way of showing up to gigs that I had just mentioned in passing at rehearsal, like, oh yeah, I'm playing this Sunday something, and all of a sudden he was there. Like, I don't remember even telling you what time or what venue,
but not showing up to the rehearsals. So
and not
at least not prepared, right?
Oh well, yes.
Wow, we could do a whole hour.
We could do the whole Louise show, but it was an important first hurdle for us. And then, little did we know we had a much bigger hurdle.
It was very educational.
I'm going to take a quick second to acknowledge some of our esteemed guests. I see Richard Johnson is on board. Richard was in my first cover band in Fort Worth. I see Joseph.
Richard
I worked on
Johnson
movie with my cousin Jason. It's Harry Von Grosswiener of the Shitjackers is on, and my old friend Craig, and Ben Lowry, and Austin, and Katie from last week. Yes, so we're in good company here. Moving right along, we put together a demo, like most bands do. And then we had our first gig booked at La Zona Rosa, whoever remembers La Zona Rosa. And that up here behind me, I don't know how talk show guys do this, but on the wall there is the first poster from that first gig at La Zona Rosa. Back, yeah, exactly. And we strong-armed a bunch of coworkers and whatnot to come to that, and that's where they got to first. You know, well, I'm jumping. I'm getting ahead of myself. We had one more little problem besides Luis before we could get this first gig out of the way, and her name starts with a J, and we'll just leave it. We'll just call her J.
We'll
just call her J.
Human being.
She was our first singer, and J and her family had a real problem with our promo photo. And it was a problem that wasn't brought up until, a couple of weeks before the first gig. And we ended up having to have a band meeting about it. And here is the photo in question, just so we can just have some context.
We got it? Is that the one? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that was the picture we liked best out of the entire photo session, and everybody was on board, right?
There's the jacket.
And then all of a sudden, I get an email saying,
the jacket. See, I'm not.
"Oh
joking.
yeah.
See,
that same jacket that McBane has on right now is the one he's wearing. That is incredible." Anyway,
the dedication.
I got an email from her that saying there was a problem. And the photo was going to be, it was disrespectful, and we're not going to be able to use it, and blah blah blah. And we had already had a few accommodations already. Looking back through the emails with her of stuff she had a problem with or didn't like, and I just kind of drew a line in the sand with this photo and said, you know what? If we cave on this, we're going to be caving on everything going forward. And let me see if I can find the audio of it, because we had a band meeting, and there it is. Okay,
we have audio?
Just take a listen. Yes, I have an audio of the band meeting.
Knowing full well that it's not disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean,
photo looks good, Jada.
I think
I don't see you shamed at all. I see you
pretty
spotlighted, actually.
Should we be hearing? I don't hear it.
Could you take a picture? Could you take a picture bending over if there was no one in behind you?
yeah.
Not happening yet.
Or if Rob's hand wasn't right by my butt.
Rob's hand's on a keyboard.
It's on a keyboard.
Yeah, but you can't.
You can see
All
that
you see is his
in the
hand.
picture.
All you see is his hand.
Rob, did you stick your thumb up Jada's butt?
Exactly.
Well, I didn't know it would be an issue, but
My fiance's getting more and more jealous of you every day.
Him?
Oh, hell yeah.
it's the hat.
I'm not gonna split hairs. I think it's painfully obvious that his hand's on the keyboard, but I'm not gonna split hairs. If that's really what it boils down to, Photoshop his hand out. Photoshop his hand. Photoshop his hand.
Elephant man.
Photoshop his hand on my crotch. And run the picture, and then that way, no one can be jealous of you because they'll think you're gay for me.
Yes, but that shames me.
It pumps up my ego just fine.
I want to be convinced that you're going to be able to go and be the live wire and be able to flirt with our crowd with your husband standing right there, and it not be an issue. Because if they're mad about that, it's crossing a wire. I don't believe for a second that. Well,
but it's not.
The picture is just the tip of the iceberg. It's. I'm not convinced that we're not going to.
No, I'm not even a bit worried about it getting in the way of her dance. If I did, I wouldn't be here.
Who's playing the recorder?
Hell, I've disagreed with shitloads of stuff that we've done, but I said a fucking word, I don't like problems. If I thought this was gonna be a problem, why would I?
Oh, that's all I can stand. Anyway,
Why do you have that? Oh my God.
I don't know. I've been on a weird wormhole lately. I've stumbled on a lot of weird old stuff, and that audio was one of them. Okay.
Well, I got to tell you, that was classic 25-year-old Mike for sure. Me, Roach, yeah.
Well, I see. I know at some point I was just like, I said, this is you. I said, you're in this band. Your family's not in this band. And I just lost it with her.
I remember that. She got really offended that you said something about like your friggin' family or something. And she got really offended that you brought that, like that you stated it that way.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh, not my family. And then it like the fucking gloves are off, right?
Well, that was the whole start of the disrespecto time.
Disrespect. and then necesito cortisone por mi corazón.
Mi corazón, necesito cortisone.
Cortisone for mi corazón. Yes. Okay, Jesus. This whole thing is just like nostalgic inside jokes, this whole thing. But I mean, it's fine. I love it. It's good for me.
Well, the only reason I brought it up is that was a big hurdle. And then, all of a sudden, boom, we get an email a few days later saying she's got to go to work in Sao Paulo, Brazil or some nonsense. And she was making a 7-figure salary. And I'll spare everyone actually reading it. But yeah, it was really something.
Well, I forgot that part actually.
I'm trying
but and I feel like you were about to say this, and I don't. If anybody is watching, it's imperative that you understand this was all happening after our first gig had been scheduled and booked at La Zona. We had put in the time, the effort. We had a good 3-hour, if not 4-hour set built with this girl, and then all of a sudden she starts doing all of this because of a photo. You saw I don't know if you want to throw it up again. The problem she had with it was that she was bent over in front of Rob, I guess. And she said that it was like, the concern was that it looked like he was feeling her up in the photo because she was bent over and all of that. But the point being that all happened like, yeah, right. No, see, she said it was like, oh, his hand is on my butt. I'm like, no, his hand is on your keyboard. I heard myself say that 20 years ago. And, but yeah, the point being that this was like, 12 days before our first gig at La Zona Rosa? I don't know, 2 weeks tops.
And my then wife at the time, Amber, had to learn the entire show.
I got a bottle.
It was a nightmare.
I'm gonna use it.
Oh, and before we leave Jay in the
feeling mental.
I have her
gonna make you notice. I'm gonna use my arms. Gonna use my legs. Gonna use my style.
Well, and all I can say is if you're wearing headphones while you're watching this, maybe pull it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to yank it down a little bit.
Imagination, no, cause
very clearly.
I'm gonna make you see. There's nobody else here. No one like me. I'm special. So special. I gotta have some of your
a crew,
attention.
a key grip, whatever it does this for.
Let's not get into gripping. That's what I gotta say.
You're the
yeah, right.
inspiration. You bring meaning to my life.
Are y'all able to hear that, guys?
Yeah.
Wanna have you near me? I wanna have you hear me say this. No one needs you more than I need you. And so I cry sometimes when
here we go, Les Moljus.
just to get it all what's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar until I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get
here we go.
high and I scream at top of my lungs, what's going on?
Yes.
Yep.
Bravo. Goodness.
So at this point,
that happened.
At this point, people may be asking, was she the only girl that auditioned?
It's funny. She actually did not. Not that hideous.
You know what, Mike? Well, you know what, Mike? See, Sean never told us the specs on that. He never told us like if we were the only suckers that showed up for the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's like, oh, we found these 4 chumps.
Yeah. I'll get them to loan me the money for my V-drum kit.
So Amber ends up pinch hitting for her, and your old girlfriend Andy was kind enough to come and sit in with us a little bit.
My wife at the time,
yeah. And that was also the debut of your first time to do Fred Live of the B-52s.
Yeah.
Which was always a
bet
crowd
you have that, don't you?
pleaser. Whatever.
I feel like,
do
you know
think?
what? I want to back up just a second ago. You sounded like you were about to say she wasn't, Jay wasn't quite so hideous live. She actually was okay on a microphone in a live setting with a band, but yeah, that isolated audition vocal was always
ill-advised at best.
Good. Yeah.
It really should have been
it
seen
got her
as
the gig. It got her the audition. It got her the gig.
Well, it should have been seen as a cautionary tale, just in general. It was really more of a metaphor for the whole experience with her rather than an honest portrayal of what she was capable of. So, but that last part of it where she's yelling, that's what I think about when I think of her and my experience navigating that project for the brief time she was in it.
It's the word you're searching for is pain.
I'm going to just say this and let it float out there and let everybody else interpret it however they want. But there was a large German Hitler bordering on Nazi component to 80-something, kind of behind the scenes. I'm just going to leave that hang.
Okay. Well, you're referring to your tenure as the vocal czar?
Yay!
We actually had a
There we
vocal
go.
czar position in the band, and that was bestowed on Mike with a very crappy Photoshop.
Yeah, that was
worthy of Pixar.
I am really interested in figuring out why people couldn't hear your fantastic rendition of.
I got another note that said no audio on that.
But you guys heard it though, right? So,
I heard it, yeah.
Yeah, that's so weird.
But I heard it from this feed, not from the live feed.
I think it's working now. And there we have it. That one worked.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't let it go by without hearing that, because it really was extraordinary, and it made us laugh every time you did it. So
I'm a living joke.
No, Debbie claimed and just earlier today that was one of her favorite things.
Aw. Hey, Debbie.
She's out there somewhere. But we actually had a decent little chat earlier, and I'm going to throw that in a minute. Do you remember some of the arguments we used to have about what to include in the set list? There was a tipping point where we decided we needed to be more commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were I think I know the song. I think I know the song that with the actual one we fought over was Love Shack.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was just thinking, Love Shack, because I was probably
no, we're crossing the line there, man.
And I was probably pushing really hard for it. I was like, no, man, that's what people want to hear. It's 80s. That's why I got in this band.
I know. Like, you fucking sell out.
Well, we
for the record, I'm still in a cover band that does not play Love Shack.
I had to in the grooves. I had to play Love Shack a lot.
Sure. Yeah, the cover band I'm in does not do, I don't think, any B-52s.
Well, you're very fortunate. But
I guess
we tried
But our guests are deprived of my Fred Schneider every Saturday, man.
We used to. I mean, we tried to keep it real, you know, and played sort of the more quirky stuff, and but you know, after a while, you can't live in a bubble like that. I think Dexy's Midnight Runners would have been well, I don't know if I could have done that one. That one might have been. Did we not? That we did not do that song. I think I sort of threw a line in the sand on that one, which was stupid of me. I shouldn't have been like that. Yeah, I think that was unnecessary. But we did not do that one. Third Language did that one because I had to do it with them once. The one time I sat in with them, but
with Third Language.
Yeah, that was your.
Yeah, the cover band I'm in now. We definitely know it. We don't play it all the time, but we definitely know it.
As far as like I mean, most of the set list was pretty agreeable. Was there any songs you just hated? You just were like, oh crap.
I don't know. It's been so long.
Would you like me to read the entire list to you?
I want to know what songs you have on a list in front of you for sure. Yes.
Obsession, Walk Like an Egyptian, Material Girl, Cars, I Want Candy, Promises, Promises, Rock the Casbah, Heart of Glass, Whip It, Things Can Only Get Better, Middle of the Road, Kids in America, Hungry Like a Wolf, Walking on Sunshine. Well, that's one that we could probably all admit.
We probably said, well, we got to do Walking on Sunshine.
We got to.
I'm looking at that Sugar's list on the screen. It's not terribly different from the one you just read off, but no, I didn't hate any of those.
Yeah,
this is the first set from this third set, third Lazona gig. Was that list right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
LZR3 set A. Love it.
And if you note on the next to some of the songs, it says vid for video. That was one of our little, one of our little fun things.
Can you and just I mean just when you look back and you think, you know, 20 how did you do that 20 years ago?
Right, well, it was a lot of hair pulling, and I'll show just a little bit, and hopefully the damn audio will be playing. Here's an example that you can clearly see what we were doing, playing along the MTV videos with the bands. More Fred. I felt like it added a lot of value to the live show.
Man, absolutely. And I do want to get to what McBane was saying about, like, how were you even pulling that off in 2001? Because I remember... I remember you saying like some of those videos for MTV, they would have like a little spot where it sped up or slowed down to, that was their version of editing. But we played to a click so that you could stay with a track, and trying to time all that up with a video. I don't know if you were speeding up and slowing down the click to match the video or cutting the video in and out, whatever you were doing.
Well, there was,
and I want to get back to that, but I will say I've always contested that the product that we built, and it was all Sugar's brainchild, but I guess it was just before its time, because what we said, not a few years later, the Spazmatics hit and everybody was at Cedar Street every Wednesday to a sold out show of all 80s. Exactly the same shit we were doing a few years earlier. With video, we were doing it. I mean, how did people not want to see that or buy that, or the clubs? They didn't want to book us. I don't get it. I still contest 20 years later. I don't get it.
Well, we weren't. See, that's part of the whole cover band world that sucks. Is it's hard to get in that loop. They're very lazy people that are in that loop, and they fear change. And believe me, I was running our stuff by Cedar Street, what's his nuts over there. And then, just about anybody that would listen, I'd send stuff to, but it didn't matter, and then we were stupid enough, Pollyanna enough to invite other cover bands, people like Dax and Gentry and the Third Language people, trying to enlist their support and their guidance and whatnot. And it got almost zilch in help, and then found out they were using our ideas in their shows, a few weeks later. Yeah. That was the reward.
They were guys, everybody you just mentioned was a guy who was in a band and also owned a booking agency. And I'm not talking ill of that. I mean, that's fine, but it's like, let's invite the guy who's got a booking agency down, forgetting the fact that they also have a band that they can, anyway.
Yeah, it's hyper competitive, and the douchebaggery is on next level stuff, with a lot of the people.
It really
and people with cover bands that have egos are just the worst. And there was, I've encountered quite a bit of that in this town. But so it was very frustrating. But to answer your question, technically, the video stuff, I'd borrowed a projector from work. I had this idea that wouldn't that be fun if we could actually show, because I remember seeing Thomas Dolby do the Flat Earth tour back in 83 or 84 at the Bronco Bowl in Dallas. And I was so freaking impressed because they had these giant projector screens that were big spectacles. And they were showing his MTV videos in sync with the show, which was 83, 84. That was no small thing to do, I don't think. And so I was like, why couldn't we do that with crappy computer AV equipment that I had at my disposal? And so the workflow was thusly, I download the music videos, because YouTube didn't have that stuff yet, off a LimeWire and Kazaa, file share.
Right. I mean, and that, I mean, even that is like a whole nother level of complexity, when you had to dig, and it was just, you had to go into file sharing to find the, you're digging around to the MIDI files, and I mean, that's a lot of work. And
and on LimeWire, when you see a file that's called, Blinded Me with Science, and then you take the time to download it over whatever internet connection you had, only to open up and find out that it's a video of a pig eating whatever. It wasn't always the thing it said in the file name.
You go through, the ratio was about 7-1 of, bullshit to actual what you were looking for. So, I would go find the video of one of the songs that we were doing on a file sharing site. And it was in an atrociously overcompressed format, but it didn't really matter. We just needed something up there. And then I wasn't a Pro Tools guy yet. I was using a software called Nuendo by Steinberg. It's a post-production software.
Yeah.
It's like Cubase's big brother. So that was my jam. I was using that. And so I figured out a way, because you're right, the tempos were not going to be like a BPM you could read off a chart and then just plug it into the sequencer. I'd take the video and actually hand do a tempo map to the audio of the music video and make a MIDI track of that tempo map. And then that's what all of our material that we were flying in on the top of everything would sync to. And then we had another problem. How the hell do you display that? Because it didn't have a convenient, we didn't have, digital videotapes that are we didn't have an easy way to display it. And any sort of optical media, which is what I tried first, I was making these super video CDs, like what they use for karaoke, and put the videos on those. But boom, you're in a live venue. What do you have? Vibration everywhere, up on a drum riser, up on a stage. So that knocked that out because it was skipping too much, and that's death when you're slaving to a song live. So I had to take my old video camera, my old analog video camera, and dub the shitty video off a capture card onto the camera, and then have the click track on the left channel of audio, and then our program stuff on the right channel. And we were playing a video camera backstage, and I'd have to pre-make the show in the order that we were doing it, and but it worked. It was rock solid, but it worked. And I'd never forget that first gig we tried it, and the audience, we were doing Rock the Casbah, and the audience suddenly becomes aware that the guy is singing perfectly in sync with Rob. And you started to hear giggling and clapping because they figured out that was actually, locked step with it. So, yeah, that was a fun little addition to things. And we got pretty bold with it. I don't know if you remember the Duran Duran intro, where we actually started the video and then ran on stage, and started playing right as the video audio cut off. It was a perfect handoff.
I do remember that.
Of us doing I think it was Girls on Film.
Girls on Film, yeah. If it wasn't us playing Girls on Film, that was at least the intro, and then maybe we jumped into Hungry Like the Wolf or something. But yeah, I do remember that. And again, I say, why didn't they buy? How come nobody wanted to book that? It was amazing.
I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about how we ended up with. We needed a new singer, and how we ended up with a certain Debbie Roxx, because we haven't brought her.
Deb Roxx.
Yeah. We had we put out ads again, and we were doing our filtration system of making people send in pictures and audio before we'd even agree to see them. And she sent in a picture, and I wish I didn't find it in time, but there's emails going back and forth from you guys going, yeah, about that picture. And then like you put like some sound file of something going or whatever attached to the email. And we auditioned some very talented female vocalists, but most of them were kind of wanting to get paid yesterday, and we weren't there yet.
Yeah.
And so we needed somebody willing to take a leap of faith, and that's how we ended up talking to one certain Debbie Roxx from Giddings, Texas. And here's a little snippet of what we talked about today.
I didn't have the world's greatest voice, but, the help from my hairdresser friend, Kirsten, and my outfit sealed the deal. Thinking about how long ago that was, and when I got the email that I got the job, I remember it taking so long to load the screen that you had sent me, and I wish I still had it. It was some kind of cute congratulations that you put together. I don't know if you still have it, but it was so long ago that our computers were so much slower back then that it took like 5 minutes to open up, and I was like dying to see, does it say I got it? Does it say I got it?
Yeah, you kind of bombarded us with a lot of personal info before we sent you that acceptance email. The email, the acceptance email, actually, I did find that. I have not found the damn website I'd made yet, but it says, "Hi, Debbie, thanks for coming by the other night. One last hoop to jump through so we can make a decision." And it was a link, and it clicks on it, and it took you to a little champagne bucket. And
yes, that's what it was. So, I remember that. That's
I do remember
awesome.
that. I have not been able to find that picture. But, funny you should bring, you're the one that brought all this up. I actually have your response right here.
Oh, no, you don't.
You want to read it, or
Oh,
you want me to
Lord.
read it?
I'm terrified.
It says,
Go ahead.
Okay, I can't breathe. Thank you so much. I said I wouldn't cry, but these are happy tears. Don't tell Mike that I'm crying my eyes out. I don't know what to say. That message was so awesome. When do we start? I'm ready, and I can't wait. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Talk to you soon. If you get this tonight, feel free to call me at home. I stay up really late. Y'all are so awesome, Debbie. Oh, boy. And for those who want to see you in action, here's a quick little clip.
Oh.
So what do you think about that?
That's awesome. Choking back happy tears.
I do appreciate you dropping in and chiming in and going back in the Wayback Machine with us for a little bit. It was a fun little ride.
It was very fun. It will always hold a special place in my heart for sure.
All right.
So.
All right. Well, you take care, Debbie Roxx.
Thanks. You too, Shug.
Well, how about them apples? Yeah. And spoiler alert, or that is the mother of my child, who's now 15 years old.
Wasn't sure we were going to go there, but yeah.
Oh, boy.
Spoiler alert, that's the mother of my child as well. And Mike's. Yeah.
Yeah, so Debbie was the only one. She showed up dressed to the nines and was ready to go, and so we had to go with her. It was pretty unanimous, I think.
We were, and I remember that email that you referenced where you said one more hoop to jump through. I remember that line exactly, and I remember thinking, "Wow, what a fun way!" But if in case it wasn't clear, she showed up, unlike the other auditionees. Debbie showed up in full 80s gear. She had on the lacy, frilly gloves, like fingerless. She had on, like a neon, I don't remember, neon tank top or some kind of zebra stripe, whatever. She was all 80s out. And she knew the material. As I recall, as vocals are, I had said, like, everybody who comes has to show up. They have to at least know this harmony and this harmony. And she knew them inside and out. And then, there were a couple of other girls who were also really good singers, but none of them with the bling, the zealousness, I guess.
Yeah.
And the bling. And she wanted it real bad, and she was very deserving of the one last hoop to jump through. Congratulations, Champagne Bucket website that I also remember, and I wish you had found it.
Yeah, it's somewhere, but man, that's going to take some digging to find it. But she brought up one thing that we didn't really go into was the balloon rehearsals. She does remember that, being terrified of the balloon rehearsals. And I don't know if either of you, how scarred you were by those.
I think I blocked it out because I mentioned, I've been thinking about, since we decided to do this, there was something that jumped into my head was like, there was a balloon at rehearsal and you didn't want the balloon, but I don't really remember. So
we had chatted about this for a second. So of course in the set was 99 loaf balloons, and I'm pretty sure I went to the party store and bought a pack of balloons. Now this was probably before I had said you're the czar, and I was just I just felt I'm going to take control and throw out a few. Anyway, it was a quality control measure. If you made a mistake, you would get a red balloon thrown at you.
Well, here's I remember it very well because I don't believe in positive reinforcement when you're trying to get 60 songs learned by a handful of people, all with different lives and jobs and stuff. So I believe in negative reinforcement to actually accelerate things. And it was actually Doug Keyser, if you remember Doug Keyser from Watchtower, the bass player who ended up being the bass player for Retarded Elf. He and I started this practice when we were trying to learn stuff for one of the albums together, and you'd end up with a piece of something on you if you messed up. And you're not allowed to take that piece of whatever is on you off until you make it through an entire song without messing up. Otherwise, you kept accruing them. And so if you end up with 4 things on, that's 4 songs you're going to have to truck through perfectly before you can remove any of them.
What things? What were those things?
Just little bits of trash and crap that were in the rehearsal room.
Just anything put on the ground.
Right, but we put a little thought into this, and we brought nice hygienic balloons, and we wrote nasty little phrases on them to kind of remind you of your place, and because people don't like being wrong, and they like making excuses for why they're wrong. And so the balloons would have things written on them like, the sequence isn't wrong, I am. Or worse, more off-color remarks. So, and it was all, it was
I was mentioning before.
it was good shaming, I like to think of it as. And it was effective. And it made practice fly by. It made it fun and a challenge, to navigate through. And, we got through it. We got all that stuff done. That was a lot of material to get down.
And I think it actually, if you want to go back to the thing about, well, hey, why was this band not successful? It's that, well, we were concentrating on actually playing the songs correctly, while all the successful bands, which I realized later, were just bands that would just play to these tracks, and so while I got so much out of it by trying to learn all these songs, that was not going to contribute to us having gigs. So while the balloons were a great morale booster, I don't know if they actually helped the band at all.
But it was really just to make sure that we were learning our stuff, and you'd want to show up to practice prepared. You didn't want to be that guy. That's how I looked at it.
You didn't want to have the most balloons at the end of the night.
No, you did not want to be festooned with balloons at the end of the set.
No.
But it is. Business is such a big part of it, and I was such not a businessman. I knew how to geek stuff together, and I just liked the tunes. But that's a great segue to El Diablo. El Diablo, our deal with El Diablo. It became.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the really good stuff. You think Luis or Jay were?
You thought that was bad.
That wasn't it.
That wasn't the.
No, it became apparent, sadly, after I don't know how many months, like 9 months, 10 months, that we were not getting any traction, and I was scared I was going to lose you guys, and so I went and I.
Did you hear that, Mike?
As a Hail Mary pass, I consulted a guy I'd met previously, and he was the kind of ringleader of one of the more well-known cover bands back in the 90s, and they're still around, I think. And I don't know.
I think they are.
And I'm not even going to mention who because it's too easy. And he left under some strange, under a bit of a cloud from them, if I remember correctly. But I knew he knew everybody that was worth knowing if you're going to try to get a damn cover band off the ground.
To get work. Yeah, he knew how to get work.
Yes, he had the Rolodex. And so...
we had product. We had just had product, man. Our product was...
We had a product, and he agreed. And they came to check us out, and they were all about it until a little ultimatum was tacked on to the deal memo that his wife was going to be our lead singer, and it really wasn't up for debate. I don't know if y'all remember that little bit of it.
I do, and I remember
specifically.
I don't want to derail. I know you've got, you're kind of running this thing with your outline of stuff, and I don't want to derail it. But in reference to that, I do recall it was like, we got this guy, and he's loves the product, but and he knows he's got the Rolodex, like you said. And then there's one little catch, and let me just back up and apologize to Debbie if I never did. I'm sure I did. But yeah, it was basically like, and you got to kick out this guy, and you got to kick out your female, and I'm going to take his spot, and she's going to take her spot. And that's how we're going to move forward. And, that was the El Diablo contract, wasn't it? But I remember, well, I don't know what I was going to say. He was like, we hadn't met her yet. We had only met him. And he was like, it's great to be like proud of your wife. Sure, be proud of your wife. But he talked her up like she was Whitney Houston's level vocalist, and like, Cindy Crawford, whatever, Playboy hot, and she was pretty. But yeah, he talked her up a lot more. Anyway, where are you going with this, Sugar?
Well, I'm just calling. This is the beginning of the end, and it was so weird to be along for the ride at that point. We had that strange gig at the pier where it kind of was the changing of the guard. That was Debbie's last official gig, and having to say goodbye to them. And I felt horrible. And I felt horrible to Rob, because Rob was original gangster on the thing. But, Rob also was, I think he was starting to lose interest a little by then. And
Rob collected a lot of balloons.
And there was not going to be a band for long if we didn't do something, and at all. And so it was terrible. It was a low point for me that year, but so we went forward, and I remember those first gigs and us kind of being a bit aghast at what we had gotten ourselves into.
The three of us specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was very clear that they were from the cover band world of approaching work ethic, and we were very proud of our attention to detail. And there was where we were trying to be, a photorealistic painting, they were kind of just willing to do a drunken dolly at every gig, and I have audio of that one thing, and I would play it, but it's so hard to hear it that it would just be confusing to the listener. But it's the one that I put the booze on. It was her version of Love Balloons.
I remember that.
Because she obviously didn't know the words, front and backwards and forwards.
She never bothered to learn any of the lyrics.
She had a music stand with lyrics.
Yeah.
She had a music stand with the lyrics, but she so badly didn't even know the songs that she couldn't even look at the lyrics and perform the song because she didn't know the song.
She literally didn't know the song.
Right. And she was half in the bag, by the end of the first set.
Always.
So,
yep.
And so it was kind of lose-lose, and the writing was sort of on the wall. And the things that I liked about the band, we were getting bad feedback from the club owners about. They didn't like the trivia. They didn't like the little touches and stuff. And to me, that's what made it fun and worth doing. After a few rounds of that, I think we all just collectively agreed, that we've hit the wall finally. And we had one more.
Well, do you remember, like, on the subject of like us trying to be, very, accurate, and them just kind of throwing it out there? I remember, like, here we are, McBane showing up in his jacket that he's got on with his, flying V 80s guitar, whatever.
And immaculately constructed parts. And I mean, if you don't look at the old videos.
Even just in the outfit. Yeah, even just in the outfits, the hair, the three of us, hair spike, Dr. Scrubs, whatever, that screamed 80s. And then he shows up in like a pinstripe suit, and she was dressed, like girls nowadays dress for Halloween, just slutty, not 80s, just slutty. And it was like, all right, we're ready to make a show that people are going to want, And in fairness, he probably wasn't wrong in terms of making it popular or making it profitable, but it just wasn't what we were doing. I don't know. That's
Well, we were a little naive and a little strong-headed, but it was our gig. It was our thing. You know, we'd built it, and so
round four, man.
kind of hated seeing it. You know, kind of fall apart. And that's that whole cover band thing is most of them are a bunch of lazy hacks that are just looking for that Skrilla and just want to sail out of there, and I don't know, I like looking forward to gigs myself. I like to and enjoy them at the time instead of seeing it as just something to get beyond every time. And that's what I thought we were trying to do, and we did for a little bit there, but and we got a few gigs.
Well, the Zona Rosa days were really good.
Yeah, that was fun. But
now the Zona Rosa days, though, that was the audience was built of all of our friends, who were like, "Do more trivia."
Yeah, right. It was no one from the general public that would come to those gigs.
Yeah, it was all our buddies. Do the backwards song thing. More Fred Schneider.
Oh, and then I just there was this moment about the trivia thing whenever we would give out prizes, and I don't know who it was, and everyone hated my trivia because it was too obtuse, and I would like really it's nothing that anyone would ever guess, and then I had a question about the computer that was used in war games. And one of Sean's friends knew the answer, right? And I gave him a computer, like I gave him this old computer, and he lost his mind. He couldn't believe it.
I remember that.
It was the best trivia prize ever. I'm still proud of that.
I'm gonna guess that was the Buddha that guessed it, because he was it the big heavyset guy that wears black all the time?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. Actually, it was someone else. I don't know.
Because the answer was Walker,
I remember.
right? So,
no, it's not. No, the answer is an IMSI.
Oh.
Well, that was the question.
Yeah, you remember?
Whopper was the big military server thing, but
military.
What was the question? Like, what did Matthew Broderick use, or what was the question?
Yeah, what was his computer? And I mean, that's obscure, and of course nobody's gonna know that, and that's why everybody hated my question. But he got it. And then I and then because we're in Austin, and I would go to thrift stores and I'd buy old computers, and I had this Texas Instruments TI-44A or whatever it was. And I remember him losing it. He was like, "This is the best prize I've ever got."
You made somebody's day.
I did. I made that guy's day. Yeah.
I guess you weren't using it anymore, the computer.
Here's the very last round of trivia, and see, Michael's asking good questions. I'm asking stuff like, "What was the full name of the bartender on the Love Boat?" And what was Mork and Mindy a spinoff of?
Oh
wow.
What was the name of the detective agency in Moonlighting? And what planet did Alf come from?
I know some of those.
I know that one.
I know some of those.
We might as well say them because we're getting no side trivia.
All right, what was the first one? Oh, Isaac. Was it Isaac something? I don't know the Love Boat one.
Very good start. Isaac Washington.
Washington. Okay, what was the second question?
Second question. Mork and Mindy was a spinoff of what TV show?
Happy Days.
Yes, very good. That's a very obscure thing.
Happy Days, yeah.
What was the name of the detective agency in Moonlighting?
Blue Moon.
Blue Moon, very good. I would never have gotten that. And then what planet did Alf come from?
Melmac.
Melmac.
Good job. Good job. Very good.
Where's my computer, McBane?
God, well, I only got one around somewhere.
Thus endeth trivia time. I think I pretty much ticked off
says
all
he's going to send me a computer, but I open the mail and it's a balloon.
with something horrible written on it. Well, guys, this has been really fun. Is there any other things I missed? I feel like that was we covered most of the salient.
Well, the only other thing I can remember is that after the writing was on the wall, and after it was over, and after the El Diablo, somehow we had still landed one more gig that we still had to do, but we had already broken ties with Diablo and Mrs. Diablo, and I want to say maybe just grabbed. I know it was Debbie. Debbie came back, but it might have just been Debbie, and then I don't remember what we did for keyboards, maybe all sequence.
You forgot.
And I took over all the vocals.
Yeah.
And we did one more for a corporate party.
Yeah, it was Bill.
Back at Lizona,
it was Bill
right where
Sarver.
it started.
Yeah, it was.
Bill Sarver.
Bill Sarver was our air keyboardist for that evening.
That's right. He just stood up there and played.
No. That was
easiest $100 he ever made.
Yeah, so
standing there pretending to play the keyboard so we could get through a corporate gig back at La Zona Rosa where we started.
La Zona Rosa, which paid more money than any of the combined gigs.
Yeah, that was our best gig. That was the Silicon Labs gig, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
yeah.
And the other memory I have of that is that the audience avoided the stage. It was unbelievable. It was total vacant. There was no interest in us.
No interest whatsoever. I remember at one point though, somebody kind of figured out, well, they're doing all 80s, and then they wanted to hear "Pour Some Sugar on Me," which we did not play.
Well, that's the thing.
Which was better. Hey man, that's better than the other top request, which is "Sticks in My Craw," which was "Brown Eyed Girl." Every gig, right?
That's such a cover. That's a cover band song. That's so not in what we were doing at all, in the least. But no. That's the dangers of having a niche variety act. Is it's going to be harder to get bookings at weddings or corporate things unless they're ready down for a whole evening of that. But who knew? 2 years later, of course they were. Spazmatics were, their calendar was full, of that very stuff.
And then a whole bunch of other 80s bands, then a whole bunch of other 80s bands just sprouted up shortly after.
Yeah. But we're not bitter.
None of them had the video or the trivia or the backward song contest though.
No. But it's okay. We learned some lessons. So, and we're here to talk about it. But so thank you guys. It's been fantastic to see you. It has been. That was 19 years ago. Almost 20 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And
yeah.
But I'm just glad we were.
Have any of us learned any lessons from this experience?
I did. I learned that I'm a terrible manager, and that I'm better as a drunken Indian than a big chief. But I always kind of knew that.
Yeah, I don't know. I went on to join a cover band. If anybody from my current cover band is watching, I do look forward to gigs. But we don't play Brown Eyed Girl either. We know it. Right. If we have to do it, we'll do it. But if I learned anything, it's exactly what we've been talking about. It's like, if you're gonna walk that line of cover band thing, there is a line where it's only profitable and no fun, and then it's only fun and not profitable. So it's hard to find that line. And then beyond that, I don't know. Be careful with deals of the devil, and I have a healthy fear of red balloons.
Well, final thoughts. So what? Plug away. What? Anything you want to plug, or what you're doing now, or? Are you still doing the films? Are you still doing this film sound scoring and stuff? That's the last time I saw you was on a film set.
And yeah,
and boy,
so I started
the rocket ride to riches that went on, that particular project.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing that. The website is still there. It's marytubble.com, MARYTUBBLE. And Mary Tubble was an LLC I started so that I could do exactly that, scores and music beds for commercials, internet films. And I did a handful of them. And on the subject of not being a very good businessman or promoting yourself. And always, if something fell in my lap, I could kill it. But I just don't know how to go out and find that work. So no, I haven't made a dime off of that in years. I'd be happy to, if anybody's watching this, marytobel.com, reach out. I'll score the next, the wrap out. And then other than that, the cover band I've been talking about is called Blind Date. We don't really do public stuff, but we're out there. And then, I think that's all I've got going on.
Great.
What about you, McBane?
So there's my big plug.
Yeah, I am playing in a band, which is surprising. I go in and out of that just because of because being in bands is tough, and sometimes it does, just as we've talked about for an hour, sometimes it does hurt, and it just burns you out. But I am actually playing in a band right now.
All 80s, right?
It's strictly 80s. And I've been doing some work with a paleontologist, which is fun.
Dinosaurs. Oh, I forgot. He's not watching it anyway, but I play with a guy named Richard Jesse, the Richard Jesse Project, 3-piece instrumental, lots of notes. Sometimes I call it the Meadly Band because all the songs go meadly.
All right, well,
but he's not watching, so it doesn't matter that I forgot to mention him.
Well, guys, again, I really appreciate it. This is super fun. Let's keep a dialogue going. And I'll share all those emails and stuff. I'll try to spit them out in a way y'all can enjoy them because it's good reading.
Okay.
For sure. If you find anything else, or if I do, I don't think I will, but if I find anything, I'll share as well.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Sugar Dew.
Yeah,
thanks for doing this, Sugar.
All right. Well, you guys take care.
All right.
Thank you for everybody who tuned in and popped out. Appreciate it. Bye, guys.